Hey guys, and welcome. Today we have a video that I've been itching to make ever since I found this out, and I'm so excited to see what you guys have to say about this as well. A YouTuber by the name of Omega Fantasy has performed some magic and found an entire section of God of War Ragnarok that was cut from the game pre-release, which goes into more detail around Kratos and Atreus' interactions with Sinmara just before Ragnarok. Please do go over to Omega Fantasy's channel and show them some love and, of course, the original video. This is a really great find, and I'm so excited to see what other cut content could be found for Ragnarok going forward. Ones that could hint where the story could have gone, or tease as to where it could go next. All the links will be down below in the description. Go over there, check the original video out, say that Wizzo sent you. It'd be very much appreciated if you could show them some love. But also, guys, before we do jump into today's video, leave a like, it'd be very much appreciated. Consider subscribing to the channel as well if you're brand new or a returning viewer. We're trying to hit 20,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We're so close to doing that, and I really think this would be the final push to do that, so very much appreciated if you consider helping there. But without further ado, everyone, let's dive into this God of War Ragnarok cut content. So, let's begin by recapping the section of the story that relates to this cut content, and that's where we meet Surtur in Muspelheim for the first time in order to try and help us with Ragnarok. So, in order for us to begin Ragnarok, we needed to create the giant Ragnarok monster. Kratos and Atreus were tasked with going to Muspelheim, speaking with Surtur, and having him and Sinmara combine their hearts at the spark of the world, ultimately creating Ragnarok and starting it off. Now, this section of cut content comes just after we place the Blades of Chaos within Surtur's chest, aka Sinmara's heart, making him fall into the abyss of the spark of the world. However, in the cut content, this didn't work, and it didn't lead to Ragnarok. So, we had to visit Sinmara to have her basically do the same thing. Now, Omega Fantasy was able to retrieve this cut section of the game in a text format, so basically the script as to what the actual actors would read it from. So we're going to read through some of that today and give you guys an idea of exactly what this quest line would have entailed, and a whole other mission relating to Sinmara. I can kind of see why this was cut not to drag the game out too long, but at the same time, after reading through it, I'd have loved for this section of the game to have been there. Like, it would have given us that little bit more of an insight into Surtur and Sinmara that we never really got in the current version of the game. We heard about why they were so in love, but we never physically seen it. And just by looking at this cut part of the dialogue, we can really see they were crazy in love with one another. But anyway, let's get into the cut mission and go to Niflheim. So, after we place the Blades of Chaos into Surtur's chest, in the current version, we're then welcomed by two Valkyries that we fight off, and that's it, we carry on and go to Ragnarok. However, in the cut content, another version of this takes place. Now, the next few minutes of the video, we'll just be going through the script and telling you the dialogue as to what's going on between Atreus, Kratos, and also Sinmara as well, to give you some context. What if he's wrong? Wrong? This whole thing seems off. They couldn't be together, so they swapped hearts, which somehow didn't kill them. And you having Surtur's fire in your blades is supposed to be enough to replicate Surtur's heart? It just feels like we're cheating. What other choice do we have? Maybe we should go to Sinmara too, just to be safe. Atreus, you hear how he speaks of her. That is a man who will die long before he sees any harm come to his beloved. We've cheated before. We must trust him. Now, personally for me, I thought this when I was playing as well. We've come all of this way, why would we just be able to use our blades to create Ragnarok and not harm Sinmara? Whether last minute she was decided to be a part of DLC that's not announced yet, I don't know. I just feel as though it would have been way more immersive and impactful if Sinmara was there too in some way. But anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Did we just mess up? We did not know what would happen. And I didn't know either. He tried to help us. Yeah, and the process might have screwed everything up. And what if this doesn't work? This is our last chance to get Ragnarok. This is the part where we move to Niflheim in the cut content and try to find Sinmara. However, you can still hear remnants of this part in the game right now. When you go to Niflheim, when you get the Yggdrasil seed, you can hear Sinmara crying in the background.
Do you hear that? Someone's crying.
Sinmara.
Ah, Surtur's love. Should we try to tell her what happened?
She knows.
This is of course the only section the devs have added in to show that Sinmara is still there in Niflheim, but you can still hear that if you go there in the game now. As we get to Niflheim, we move through the realm and come across Sinmara. I'll read through this part of the script to give you an understanding of their interaction and summarise the rest after, but it's interesting because you get a real sense of the atmosphere and the tension between the characters, and that Sinmara could like snap at any moment. So let's have a read. Atreus began by shouting Sinmara's name as they were walking through Niflheim, and this is what happened. I heard my name. Told you it'd work. We're, here to leave. We have to follow her. Lead on, boy. Sinmara runs away and Atreus and Kratos run to catch up with her to try and talk to her and reason with her around potentially helping with Ragnarok. Atreus, approach with caution. I know what I'm doing. Sinmara, wait. We need to talk to you. We know what happened. You? And who are you? Sinmara breaks down in tears, and she's angered with the death of Surtur. We promised. He promised that we'd see each other again, muttering to herself as she has her head in her hands. My name is Atreus. This is my father, Kratos. If you know what happened, you'll forgive me for not feeling hospitable at this moment. We're the people who can help. We want to help. You two? Is that why you're here? We're trying to stop Odin, keep him from hurting more people. I see. I didn't even get to say goodbye. He's just gone. We know this feeling. I wasn't even there. Perhaps I could have done something if I had known. You are not to blame. I want to be alone. Being alone isn't always helpful. You really want to lecture me right now? No, I'm sorry. I just meant that pitying yourself like this isn't gonna do anything. Ah, okay. So much worse than a lecture. Don't you want to do something about this? No, not now. Please, Sinmara, just a few words. It's not what you think. So you claim to know what I think, and you ignore my request to be alone. Sorry, let me explain. It's important that you know what happened. Alright, enough. I understand. You feel bad for me and you want to help. But I promise, nothing could be more help than you two leaving me alone right now. That was the end of the interaction between the three characters, and just fast forwarding slightly into the script, as it is around 15 pages long and this video will be a lot longer if I went through it all. Atreus actually decides to lie to Sinmara here and tell her that Odin was the real reason for the death of Surtur, making her rage build inside and wanting that revenge on Asgard, essentially turning into Ragnarok and destroying Asgard and killing Odin. Sinmara again is stunned by this. She has no idea why Odin would want to kill Surtur, wondering why they were ever considered a threat. They'd been apart for so long. There's no reason to ever think that they'd be able to do any harm. For those that don't know, this is ultimately the reason why they've been separated. They're so madly in love with one another that the second that they see each other, their hearts are going to combine, they're going to combine, and it will probably just form Ragnarok, which is ultimately the reason why they're separated, with Surtur being in Muspelheim and Sinmara being in Niflheim. Sinmara questions Kratos and Atreus. You saw this happen, and you watched him die and let his murderer walk free? My heart, the one that beats inside his chest. Sinmara screams as it echoed across the realm of Niflheim. Odin will have what he fears most. Ragnarok is indeed coming, exclaimed Sinmara. At this point in the dialogue, Kratos and Atreus tell Sinmara that she's not the only one to have lost someone at the hands of Odin. Of course, they're referring to Brock being killed earlier on in the game, continuously stringing this lie along that Odin killed Surtur in order to try and get Sinmara to agree to form Ragnarok and essentially sacrifice herself. Sinmara finishes this interaction by returning home, stating that they have no clue what they're really asking for and that she needs to grieve longer and really think about this. Sinmara leaves the picture and it's then just Kratos and Atreus for a moment. Kratos confronts Atreus, asking him why he lied about Odin. This is where Atreus said that if he didn't, then she would never have even spoken to us, or potentially accused them of killing Surtur. In which Kratos bluntly responds, well, we did. We wait for Sinmara to grieve and make her decision, and actually within that time to fill the gap and to obviously increase the playtime, we fight a dragon within Niflheim, which I thought was interesting. However, when we defeat that dragon, very much like Atreus in the first game and very earlier on in the game, he starts again to turn extremely cocky and arrogant. Kratos suggested to Atreus to try and speak with the dragon to see what it wants, to see if it can help, and to essentially to try to get it to not fight us. And Atreus then responds, okay, yeah, maybe we did disturb it and maybe it's hungry, but how are we supposed to know? Stupid dragon, mind your own business next time. Kratos responds and states this, your behaviour since Midgard, this is not what I taught you, saying that he's been extremely rebellious throughout the entirety of the game. However, Atreus said that he will do whatever it takes to avenge Brock, our friend's death, and this is how we have to do it. Anyway, fast forwarding slightly into the mission, we meet back up with Sinmara, wherever that may be. Maybe it's in her castle or house, or I don't know, we don't get any pictures of this. Here is where we bring up Brock directly to Sinmara. She complimented Kratos and his spear, and this is where Kratos mentioned that it was his work directly that created it, and that all of our fighting is done for Brock now. And that Sinmara is not alone in her pain. We feel the exact same thing at the hands of Odin. Finally, Sinmara agrees to form Ragnarok and agrees to help us in doing this, trying to get revenge on Odin and fight for what is right. We escort Sinmara to the Spark of the World. This is really cool and really good touch here, because the Spark of the World is the only place in existence that both of the realms, Niflheim and Muspelheim, both meet together. So when we're in Muspelheim, we go with Surtur to the Spark of the World. One side is red, the other side is blue. And we do a very similar thing with Sinmara from Niflheim, and we meet her in the centre. This is where she reunites with Surtur and initiates Ragnarok and falls into the abyss of the Spark of the World. It's at this stage that the Valkyrie fight in the full game that we've played takes place, and then we carry on as we did in the base game. Amiga Fantasy also mentioned some lesser story-driven moments that were cut from the game that were found in the files too, such as when we see Durlin and the dwarfs working on the Ragnarok war machines. Later on into the campaign, Atreus sees that they've disappeared, and he also mentions that, and obviously that's where Odin's had them transported to Asgard in order to prepare for Ragnarok. And then we have Hildisvini, the boar from the first game and Freya's friend in Ragnarok of course. This is where we see him actually conversing with the big bird in Helheim, trying to get them to help us in the war against Odin and Ragnarok, the god feasting on all of the souls within there. But you'll be very interested to know that that's not all that we have for you today. Another really interesting piece of cut content was found by Amiga Fantasy. Again, all links below, go check them out. Really chuffed that they've been able to pull this out the files and explain what this is and give the details in the videos for this. And I'm going to actually show you the dialogue and the scenes that were recorded, so this must have been cut very late on.
What is that?
The heart of Sinmara.
Ragnarok. Asgard's destruction must have split their heart in two.
What